The crypto markets are cooling down after they have been on fire over the last week. We're going to be looking at the price of Bitcoin specifically and looking at some of the key numbers that we need to keep an eye out for moving forward. Texas Republicans are proposing ridiculous law changes for cryptocurrencies. Venezuelan economist supports cryptocurrencies, and the exchanges are making big announcements. Now, before we do jump into that, I just want to give a quick shout out to the guys from the Cardano Effect. There's going to be a link down below for a podcast that I did with them just a few days ago. It was a great chat all about Cardano. So if you want to check out some great Cardano conversation, make sure to listen to that podcast. It was a lot of fun. Now let's go in and check out the charts first. And I want to start off by talking about key support and resistance levels. Well, $4,000 has been a very stubborn level recently. We see that it has been having that real hard time trying to break over that $4,000 level. What I'm looking at is right over here, these $4,200 levels. We can see it here, and we can see it here that we are having a tough time breaking over that high. Now, if we go back in history a bit, we can see that we did have similar situations back in 2017 with a fairly similar level. It's a little bit higher, but we can see that right around there we are having that difficulty breaking across it. Something else that I've been keeping an eye on is the 200-day moving average. Now this is also coming back to a historical level of resistance around the $4,900 mark, which we can see just here. That was a double top way back in the day. Now that is of course where we need to get up and over right now to get over that 200-day moving average. Now we haven't seen a golden cross in quite a long time in the Bitcoin dollar prices. I mean, we have to go way, way, way back in order to see that happening. Right back here to October 2015. That's when we saw the golden cross happen. That's when the 50-day moving average crossed over the 200-day moving average, and then of course sustained above it right for that entire bull market that we did see happening. Then of course we famously crossed back down below that in March. This was the death cross, as they call it, and of course we have seen bearish market momentum ever since. But we are really closing in on this here. We're back above the 50-day mark, which is quite nice, but I really want to see that 50-day coming up here and crossing over the 200-day. That would signal to me that we are moving towards a time of very bullish momentum. But we actually have to get there. So that's about the 4,900 level. We have seen that as a previous area of historical resistance, but we have so much to cross over before we even get to that level. We have to cross over this 42, 43 range that we see down here. And of course, we need to move up then cross over 49, and if we can actually see that golden cross play out where we see the 50-day moving average crossing over the 200-day moving average, that would be an extremely bullish indicator to set in motion some very exciting times in the market. Another interesting thing that I want to come over here and look at is the weekly Bollinger Bands. So since the last week of November, all the way back then, we have basically been ranging between $3,200 and $4,000. So that is the approximate level. We can see it's actually pretty tight. These Bollinger Bands, we haven't seen any big movements since way back in November. We've been very, very tight, and we could compare that to the kind of tightness that we saw in the Bollinger Bands actually leading up to that big plunge back in November. Now, we can see that the volume is pretty good on the weekly recently, certainly better than the volume that we saw back in October 2018. So that is definitely a good indicator that we may be heading in a more positive direction this time when we do see a significant breakout coming, because we can see the volume here has been much more significant. And of course, we've had these nice weekly candles 3 weeks in a row. So we could see that being a nice bullish indicator that the Bollinger Bands this time could be breaking upwards, not breaking downwards. Of course, if we maintain that volume in a positive way, that is what we might see happening. But if we see a big drop off in volume, that might be a worrisome trend. One thing, though, that would really not surprise me is seeing some sideways movement for even longer. We've been moving sideways for quite a while now. We've been ranging between this 3,200 and 4,000 range approximately for all of this time. Will we be testing those lower levels again? It is very possible we might be going down to test that 3,200 level again before we kick off some real kind of bullish momentum. But we definitely need to see the break above some of these key ranges that we've been discussing before we can say, yes, we are really back in some actual bullish momentum, because the indicators were trending towards kind of bullish, but at the same time, we have not had the confirmations that we are indeed entering back into a strong bullish trend. And it's worth saying again and again that the Bitcoin halvening is getting closer by the day. It is a ticking price bomb. If you really think that Bitcoin is currently priced in for the halvening, you're crazy. There's going to be so much FOMO happening around the halvening for Bitcoin. And of course, we have the litecoin halvening later this year. These are going to be significant price events. And yet there are still people who are calling for the $2,000 or even $1,000 Bitcoin. Who the hell is going to be selling Bitcoin for $1,000? Anyone who's been around this long knows that such a dip would be a temporary movement. And there's so much buying pressure. There's so many people who want to get that cheap Bitcoin that getting down to that level seems incredibly unlikely. But there are still people who think that we need more suffering, that we have to see all cryptocurrency projects that are not Bitcoin disappear, that all exchanges have to go bankrupt, all crypto influencers have to disappear. And only then can the magical Bitcoin arise from the ashes of the Armageddon. Why all the suffering, guys? That's crazy. We've seen so much action recently. Look at the altcoin markets. Could this be a signal of things to come? Look at Engine, 150% in the last week. We saw a whole host of different cryptocurrencies, 30, 40, 50, 60% gains. This was massive. For a bear market, it's nuts. It's nuts to see this kind of momentum. This says to me that we do see enough health in the cryptocurrency markets that we could be moving in a more bullish or at least a sideways accumulation time. Not that we're going to be going down to super bearish fantasy land. The Samsung S10 is now shipping, and it's shipping with a built-in Ethereum wallet. Now, Samsung is estimating that they're going to sell 40 million of these S10s in 2019. That means that there's going to be 40 million people with an inbuilt Ethereum wallet. Whoa, that is super massive. To put that in perspective, that's around 20 times the amount of all ledgers and Trezors that have ever been sold. That is a massive audience. What Samsung is doing is going to be absolutely leading in terms of introducing that Ethereum wallet to millions of people. It is, of course, though, really unfortunate that the Samsung S10 is not including a Bitcoin wallet. Guess you can't get everything, but still it is great to see this as a movement towards adoption and brand awareness for cryptocurrencies overall. Quick note on the Samsung S10 though, apparently their facial recognition technology has been fooled by a video of the owner. So Samsung is recommending to not use the facial recognition security for the moment. They're saying just use your fingerprint. That's an FYI for anyone who's getting the Samsung S10. Now, over in Texas, Texas Republican Phil Stevenson has introduced a bill draft that would require Texans to identify themselves before they use crypto assets like Bitcoin. If all the cryptocurrency users agree to register the digital currency identities, it will essentially form a bank-like financial system, bringing more stability and adoption to the cryptocurrency space, is the reasoning. This seems nearly impossible to enforce and just shows again how politicians really lack an understanding of how all of this works. So let's say that Texas was to pass some local legislation in the state. All it would do is push innovation out of the state. It would make it more difficult for some people in Texas to access cryptocurrencies, but there would still be peer-to-peer transactions. Bitcoin is not going to change its alphanumeric codes, the public keys, and people are not going to run out and start signing up and saying, oh yeah, I own this address and I own this address. Is counterfactual to how cryptocurrencies actually work and how the cryptocurrency community approaches their privacy. Now, it's just a draft bill at the moment, but it just underlines how out of touch some politicians can be. But we have seen a lot of great innovation recently in the United States. What Wyoming is doing, for example, really shines a spotlight on how regulation can be a good thing and move cryptocurrencies in a positive direction, but you have to have people who are advocating for it. You have to have people who can get in contact with these politicians and explain to them the value of this new technology. Barclays has come out saying that they see as much as $19 billion in additional revenue in its upside case for Facebook, $3 billion as the minimum by 2021 if its cryptocurrency plans work out as they are rumored to be. Now remember though, that Facebook coin is not really a good thing. It's going to be a centralized profit maker for Facebook, and this proves it. $19 billion in additional revenue a year for Facebook. That says all that you need to know about the Facebook coin, and add on top of that that it's going to be all about censorship. Nothing to be excited about with Zuckbucks. Sure, it's going to introduce people to cryptocurrencies, and yes, some of that money might flow into Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies, but Facebook has historically been anti-cryptocurrency except for their own cryptocurrency. And something like the Zuckbucks are basically a double-edged sword. And it makes it so important for everyone out there to spread the good word about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is the antithesis of Zuckbucks. So it's really important that people understand what Facebook coin is and isn't. It exists to make money for Facebook. It does not exist to help enhance freedom. Quite the opposite. Over in Venezuela, Venezuelan economist Aaron Olmos has praised cryptocurrency as good money. He said in a statement, "We are in a complicated situation because good money, dollars or cryptocurrency, is available, but it is scarce because people tend to keep it and not spend it. On the other hand, our bad money, the bolivar, is the one that is used by law." Now, my one critique of his statement here is that, look, I realize compared to the bolivar, the dollar appears to be good money. But dollars are not good money. Are they better than the bolivar? Yes. But being better than the bolivar does not inherently make you good money. But I can agree on his cryptocurrency statements. He goes on to say that he believes that cryptocurrency can be part of Venezuela's economic solution, saying that the Constitution, in theory, does not prevent the use of cryptocurrency in payments, and that crypto should be recognized for internal use and given space to develop, and that it can actually serve as an alternative element of trust in the Venezuelan economy. He also mentioned on the topic of the Venezuelan petro crypto, he said the petro hasn't worked out because it has a structure based on intervention, power concentration, and forced usage. Interesting opinions for sure. And of course, Venezuela's bolivar has been a near total failure. The case for cryptocurrencies in Venezuela is an obvious one. Cryptocurrencies help you escape the bad planning of your government. They help you escape the inflation of your own fiat currencies. And the recent opening, for example, of the crypto remittance office offered by the Venezuelan government goes to show the power of cryptocurrencies to avoid politically driven sanctions. And as a further reminder of this, the United States Treasury Department came out today with fresh sanctions on a Russian bank. Now, what was the crime of that Russian bank? Well, they are cooperating with Venezuela's state-run oil company. The absurdity, the absolute absurdity and insanity of one country telling two other countries that they are not allowed to do business together is twisted. The financial terror regime of sanctions, however, cannot stand up to the power of Bitcoin. And you can disagree politically on all kinds of levels with Venezuela. You can be pro-regime change, anti-regime change, and any kind of nuance in between. But you know what? Bitcoin doesn't care about any of that. Bitcoin enables finance. Bitcoin enables people to transact peer-to-peer. They don't need the middleman, and it can't be shut down. What we see right now is an international financial regime that is dominated primarily by the interests of one sphere of influence, and it's broken. It is a broken system, and it is used for financial tyranny all the time. Bitcoin is the solution to all of this. And to finish up today, a couple of news announcements from exchanges that I find very, very interesting. Bittrex is basically joining the fun and games by adding in initial exchange offerings to their international exchanging service. Now, Huobi is also seemingly getting in on the action with the upcoming Huobi Prime, although we still are waiting on the details of that to be confirmed. Now, an initial exchange offering is essentially when an ICO goes to an exchange and says, well, we're going to work with you to sell our tokens to the public, basically. This is such a powerful thing because it gives immediate liquidity for that cryptocurrency on some of the top exchanges. I mean, we're talking about, Binance has been doing this for a while. We're talking about Huobi. We're talking about Bittrex. A lot of other top exchanges are either doing this already or looking at doing it. Exchanges like Liquid, for example, have been doing it for quite a while. This is a super important step. It adds security and it adds transparency and it adds basically the ability for capital to flow into these initial offerings in an even easier fashion. The increased access and the increased security offered by exchanges could be a big factor in helping bring fresh capital into the crypto markets. Anyway, that's just my 2 Satoshis on crypto markets at the moment and some of the key news items of the day. You will let me know your opinion on any of this down below in the comment section. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time to watch this video. You guys totally rocks, and I really, really appreciate your time. And of course, if you enjoyed this video, leave a thumbs up on it. You can always subscribe to the channel if you are new around here and hit that notification bell to stay up to date when I put out a new video. Long live the blockchain, and peace out till next time.